Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Odinic School of Mysteries. My name is Bear. Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to sit here and listen to me talk. I know this is kind of the stuff we do here is kind of niche, and it's not for everybody. And so the fact that you've taken the time to come and sit with me and just hear me talk is really is, it means a lot to me that you've been willing to do this. And so from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you to you and yours. Um, Next week, next Wednesday, please tune in because my friend and colleague Alex is coming on and she's going to talk about Seder. She is a member of the same School of Mysteries that I am a part of. She's a fully initiated member. And that's and so that's kind of cool. She's much more qualified to talk about this stuff than I am, and it'd be worth your time. So I hope you stick around for that. What we're going to talk about today is a little, I don't know if you'd call it different. The Book of Frigg. Sometimes people call it Frigga. Frigg. G? No, suddenly I can't remember how many G's there are. I think I usually spell it with two. And the medieval authors would, to sexy it up a bit, would often put the A at the end of it. So you had Frigga and Valhalla and there's like a bunch of other Norse names that they put an A at the end so it sounds more sexy. But the A really didn't exist in the original. So Valhalla was like Valhall, for example. Frigga was Frigg. But the Book of Frigg is something that not very many people, well, I should say it this way, I don't think anyone's really acquainted with it. And it's not a document. It's not a book you could go check out or research or find. You may have heard, for those of you who are acquainted with tarot, you may have heard it referred to tarot as the Book of the Goddess. And the great tragedy, I think, among the Norse paganism in aggregate, in general, but even more on a personal level, I think Frigg could easily be called the forgotten goddess. In the school that I am a part of, I know there's a big debate among scholars on whether or not Frigg and Freya are actually one and the same person. And frankly, I don't know that it matters a whole lot. But in our school, in our system that I came up through, and that my teacher, in the way that I was brought up in the Norse mysteries, was that Frigg and Freya were separate. Freya Freya was much more akin to like what you would call like Athena, like the goddess Athena, the Greek goddess Athena, a war goddess, a wisdom goddess. Um, you might, she's also a Freya is also the planet Venus, and but with wisdom goddesses and goddesses that are attached to knowledge in particular, they're always labeled harlots, and there is a few reasons for that. Well, one of the big reasons, as far as blinds work, and I've talked about what a blind is. A blind in mystery school philosophy is a means of keeping secrets. It's something that you do. How do you put it? A blind is when you put an over amount of emphasis on certain information. It doesn't even have to be a lie, but you put an over amount of emphasis on certain information in order to draw someone to a wrong conclusion. The news media does this all the time. News media does use blinds all the time. Well, they'll put too much focus on something so that it's not a lie. They're not lying, but it makes you come to a conclusion that if given the proper context, you wouldn't have come to, without it. Or you wouldn't have come to the same conclusion should you have had all the information. That's how blinds work. And there's a numerous amount of them. There's blinds everywhere, and they work really, really effectively. It's like one of the classic old school secret keeping mechanisms out there. It's used in spycraft. It's used in news media. It's used in. I got nose hairs. I got mustache going up my nose. It's used everywhere. Blinds are if you're in the business of communication and you are someone who's interested in perpetuating narratives, blinds are one of the most important tools you have in your tool bag. And the mysteries in mystery schools, I've used them forever to keep people who aren't worthy of seeing what's there out. And calling people like women like Frigg and Freya, calling them harlots is one of those things that if you're uninitiated, you would say, well, they're floozies, they're sexual deviants, they are, they like the boys. There's an instance in Norse mythology where Loki makes a comment during some feast, and he says something to the effect of, there scarce isn't a god here that Frigg hasn't slept with. And the other reason, and I think but the more important reason, is that if you understand what the god or goddess represents, their monikers make a lot more sense. So if we understand that Freya is a wisdom goddess and that Frigg is truth, well, then it makes a lot more sense, because if you approach wisdom and you approach truth with an open heart, wisdom and truth will always give themselves willingly to whoever seeks them out. And so it's called harlots. They're harlots. They're the women who sleep with anyone who comes to them, because truth wants to be known. Wisdom wants to be known. And so these things are really important, and the these descriptors they're not given for no reason. They're put there on purpose, so that they're communicating something, is what I'm trying to say. If the sex of a god is really important, because it tells you a lot of what that god, it tells you a lot of what the form and function of what the god is, and the form and function of the mystery of the god that is being represented. That's what it is. By the way, I am drinking alcoholic beverage. I hope you are as well. If you, of course, are of legal age. And I hope you have a drink with me. I'm drinking port out of a goblet. No, it's not a goblet. What is this? This is a mug. Like a badass. Oh, geez. Anyway, so in our system, going back to what I was saying before, Frigg and Freya are different. Freya is wisdom. She's a wisdom goddess, and she functions a lot like what we see most wisdom goddesses function. Wisdom is a masculine. It's part of the sacred masculine. Wisdom is very linear. It's very calculative. It's very logical. It's something that you could put on a piece of paper, and that's under the province of the sacred masculine. So when we see Freya, she puts on a lot of masculine features. We see this always. Whenever a wisdom goddess enters the picture, she's always dressed in armor. She's always good in combat. She always has a spear or a sword or something she's good at, because that is a representation of the sacred masculine. She's a feminine goddess, but she's occupying the sacred masculine. Frigg is as a totally different thing. Frigg is much the same way that Isis. Well, you got to be careful here. It's not easy I'm not trying to say that Frigg is Isis, but they occupy similar functions. You understand? And I got to be careful, because people will say that I'm just trying to use other mythologies in order, to put things in boxes. Well, I'm not really trying to do that, but it gives people context. It gives folks a rubric in order to measure, it gives them something to measure things off of, if that makes any sense. So I'm not trying to say that Frigg is Isis, but I'm trying to say that if you understand the mystery of Isis and what she does, then you'll have come a long way into understanding the province of Frigg. The truth and wisdom are always married. Going back to the Egyptians, for example, Thoth, the wisdom god, was married to Ma'at, the truth goddess. And there are reasons for this. As I said, wisdom is logical. It's one of those things that fix this a little bit. It's the province of the sacred masculine, and we've talked about the sacred masculine before. The sacred masculine is occupied the left side of the brain and the right side of the body. It's your sword arm. And the sacred masculine is logic, it's reason, it's things like linear time, it's engineering, it's science, it's mathematics, it's counting, it's things that if you could take a piece of paper and you could make a list, right? You could solve it by listing out things on a piece of paper. Is the easiest way to describe it. It's concrete thought. That is what the sacred masculine is and what he occupies. Wisdom falls under this rubric. It's the thing that if you go to like your grandfather and saying, I need to know about money, or I need to know about, life and how to ask a girl out or something like that. It's that kind of knowledge that is, it's transformative, but it's linear. It's transformative, but it's facts and figures. It's the kind of wisdom, it's the kind of knowledge you'd learn from a textbook almost. Don't take it too far, but it's kind of in that wheelhouse, I would say. The sacred feminine is just the opposite of that. It's knowledge that is not quantifiable on a piece of paper. It's eternity, it's art, it's love, it's emotion, it's things that can't... I don't even know how to explain it. It's like... it's like when your mother gives you a hug. And that warm sensations and all those feelings of love and safety and security all wash over you. There really isn't words to describe it. Like, we've all been in the position where like our kids or something have come up to you and say, what is love? And then you're left with your thumb up your nose because it's like really the only thing you could tell to your teenage kid is like, well, you'll know it when it happens, right? There isn't words you can really use to describe that. And that is what truth is. Truth is something that is beyond the scope of someone to be able to express in any meaningful way. It's bigger than all of us. So the only way we know truth, we can know truth, is through story. Because truth is so big, it's so outside our ability to even rationalize it, that truth has been passed down to us through abstraction. Does that make sense? Probably doesn't. Abstraction. So there's a story. I think I might have told it before. There was a wise man, a teacher, who had 4 blind students. And the teacher sends his students out to wash his elephant. But you know what? We're Vikings, right? We're Norse. We believe in the Norse mysteries. So we'll say that the teacher sends him out to wash his bear. Just for fun. So, the Gothi, the wise Gothi, sends his 4 blind students out to wash his pet bear. I don't know why, it just amuses me to say that. So out they go. And so there's 4 students. So the first student takes the front of the bear. The second student takes the right side of the bear. The third student takes the left side of the bear. And the fourth student, of course, takes the rump. It's the ass end of the bear. So they wash the bear and they get it all lathered up and they wash it and they come back into the Gothi. And the Gothi says, so, tell me, what is a bear? And the first student says, well, clearly a bear is a face and teeth. And the second student goes, oh, you're nonsense. You're full of crap. Everyone knows that a bear is a front leg and a back leg. And the second student says, oh, you're nonsense. That is nonsense. Well, it's true that it's a front leg and a back leg, but you got the legs all backwards, right? Because they're on opposite sides of the bear. The fourth student says, well, you guys what kind of bear are you guys talking about? Of course it's none of those things. That's stupid. A bear, of course, is 2 hind legs and a butthole. I don't know. You could blame the booze if you'd like. So, the wise Gothi says, well, what would you say if I told you were all right? And the poor students just walk away and they shake their heads and saying, our poor old Gothi, he's clearly lost his mind. But that's what truth is. It's a bear. And we can only see certain sides of it, where our perspective is so limited into what we can see. There's more going on there than what meets the eye, and that's what really vexes men when they come to meet women, is because women aren't linear in the way that men aren't. How do you say it? Women don't think the same way men think. If you ever had sex with a woman, you'd know that sex with a woman for the woman, sex is totally different than the way sex is for a man. Right. If you have any smarts whatsoever, you'll know that's true. But what story does, and this is kind of the point, the Book of Frigg is the use of story to teach truth. Ta-da! The Book of Frigg, the Book of the Goddess, is the use of certain kinds of stories to teach higher concepts, things that cannot be truly understood except through a certain kind of knowing. Let me explain. How many people know Africa exists? Do you know? Not many. Let me use myself as an example. I have never been to Africa or Canada. Let's use Canada. I've never been to Canada. It's just north of me. Me and my family just moved here to Maine. And Canada is about, 2.5 hour drive or so, maybe 3. But I've never seen Canada. I've been to a zoo, and I've seen animals I'm told are from Canada. I've seen pictures. that I'm told were taken of Canada. I've seen a landmass on a globe and a map that suggests that Canada is in fact north of me. I've met people who've said they've gone to Canada. I've met people who live in Canada. I've talked to people who are in Canada now. But do I know Canada exists? Well, not really. I believe Canada exists. I believe Canada exists. I've seen a lot of evidence, a ton of evidence, that makes me strongly believe that Canada is in fact a real place with real people who live there. Right? After all, we all know who Justin Trudeau is. He's on the television, right? And they say there is a person named Justin Trudeau, and that person lives in Canada, and that person is the prime minister of this mythical land that I've never seen. And, I have a strong belief that Canada does, in fact, exist. But do I know Canada exists? No. I don't know Canada exists. I believe it exists, but I don't know it exists. And so one of the problems we face as people is that we attribute to knowledge things that are actually beliefs. And I'm going to say that again because I think it's rather important. We attribute to knowledge, we believe, we think we know things that are actually beliefs. Like, take a textbook, for example. A science textbook, it's like this thick. And I know textbooks are obsolete these days because everything's online. But how many of you have actually seen a plant cell? Or a cell divide? Or a horse having a child? A colt? How many have actually seen a baby being born? How many of you have actually experienced I don't know what's another good thing. I don't know. But you kind of get the point. You get the point that there's things that we take on faith, that we take for granted, right? We hear someone on the news come and say something vaccine. Or the president did this, or this politician did that, and this politician said this, and this politician said that, but we weren't there to actually see it happen. But we weren't there to see it happen. But because we were told that it is so, we say that we know it. Does that make sense? I've never seen evolution happen. Like when we talk about like evolution, like Darwinian evolution, right? Darwinian evolution. I've never seen that happen. In fact, everyone on Earth can't actually say that they've actually seen that happen, but people say that they know that it exists. Just like people say that they know that Canada exists, even though they've never seen it. Or that they know that lions are real, even though they've never seen a lion in person. And so the trick with the mysteries, the is to tease out of somebody experience of a kind that you wouldn't normally be able to say that you'd really have in the normal course of life, because truth it's not something that you memorize. It's not a list of facts. You can't. It's like let's put it this way. Truth, the word truth, most people don't know this, or they've forgotten it. Truth was a goddess. Like, that was her name. Her name was Truth. And she was considered a self-willed, conscious being. And the Gnostics, for those of you who are up on your pre-Christian Abrahamic religions, the Gnostics, one of their great heresies is that they believed that goddesses, well, one, were real, but Truth was one of the four emanations that stood before the creator of all things, the highest and most hidden All-Father. Right? Truth was that thing that was one of the most important and highest goddesses that ever existed. And so when someone says, I know truth, or that I'm in love with truth, you're not actually saying that you're in love with the concept of truth, but really what you're saying is, I am in love with this goddess, this emanation of whatever this unknowable source of things are. And so you can't, you can't, like, let's say that you're going to date somebody and you wanted to fall, you have a huge crush on this particular lady or this particular man. You can't know that person by going to their friends and asking their friends about who's Stephen. Right? Who is Stephen? Well, do you know who Stephen is? And so you learn a bunch of facts about Stephen because you're going to his friends, you're going to his family, but you never actually talk to him. So you just memorize a litany of factoids. Stephen likes the color blue, and Stephen won a ski trip back in 2008, and Stephen might have a drinking problem, right? With these are just their list of things. And you can't get to know Stephen by memorizing a list of things. Because it's just memorization. And the problem that people face is that they've often mistaken the symbol for things for the thing itself. Oh, let me say that again. I said that wrong. Instead of seeing the thing itself, how do I put that? They've mistaken the symbol for the real thing instead of getting to know the thing itself. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like a child drawing a tree, and it's like a stick figure. That stick figure isn't a tree. Barely even looks like a tree. But people have mistaken that picture for the real thing, and it's not. A real tree is quite different. And so the Book of Frigg is this idea where we use myth, we use story in a very specific way that teases out of a student the true nature of things by allowing that student to actually meditate on what is there and almost experience it for themselves. Real knowledge, real truth. Truth as a self-willed and divine being. Something that's bigger than all of us. That's why truth was said to be the night sky. That's why Frigg is said to be the night sky. You say, Bear, why is truth? Why is Frigg said to be the night sky? Why is Frigg said to be chaotic? Darkness. Because in the wee hours of the morning, the mother goddess gives birth to Gnosis. The sun, Balder. In the wee hours of the morning, the mother goddess Frigg gives birth to the light. And as Jordan Maxwell so aptly said in his talk on astrotheology, and you all should go look at that. It's required reading as far as I'm concerned. He said that the perennial enemy of man is and has forever been darkness. You don't know what's out there in the darkness. So when the sun rises in the morning, it illumines everything. You could see what's there. You could see the predator in the grass. And so the night became known as the mother goddess, the night mother. Not that that means that she's darkness in the sense of being creepy, which is why people always do this, and it drives me freaking up the wall. It is such a disservice where they always go creepy with it. They hear night mother and they think vampire, like I'm gonna suck your blood. No. Look at the stars and see the profundity of the beauty of the stars. We're not talking about creepy, ghoulish things here. We're talking about high philosophy, where the light of Gnosis is born out of the night, out of the womb, out of the darkness, out of the thing that gives birth to new things, out of new light and new life. We look up at the stars and we see wonder up in the stars, and it makes your heart beat a little faster, and you lose yourself in the beauty and the profundity and just the mystery that is just beyond the words of man to describe up there in the heavens. It's that is what the feminine is. That's what the sacred feminine represents. That's that unknowable aspect of God. The truth goddess. And it is, and I've been in the sauce a little bit. And I hope I'm explaining this in a good way, but the problem is that there really isn't a good way of explaining it, because you can't just explain truth, because truth isn't explainable. And so we use these little phrases and tricks to get people to think and start to kind of understand it in a way that makes sense, but not in a sense that you could explain. Like, okay, Lao Tzu, he wrote the Tao Te Ching. And a quick skip a lot of things version of the Tao is basically this philosophy that there's a divine matrix, a current of energy, like the Force in Star Wars, that permeates everything. And, the purpose of the master or the student is to align yourself with the flow of the Tao. But the master teacher himself, Lao Tzu, said that the Tao that can be expressed is not the eternal Tao. The truth that can be expressed is not the eternal truth. The Frigg that can be expressed is not the eternal goddess herself. She is the unknowable profundity of the universe. And it is a fucking shame that the heathen community in aggregate has almost completely forgotten about her. Not that they've forgotten about her, like they don't know her name, but they don't know her mystery or what she represents, because you're missing so much beauty, so much amazing mystery and wonder of the universe. She's beyond all of us. And she's the mother of all of us. She's the All-Mother. All-Father, All-Mother. Odin and Frigg. The parents of the sun. Balder, the bright one who is born every morning and is murdered and sent into the underworld every night. The world is plunged into darkness, and all we see is Frigg and the twinkling stars, until he's birthed out of his mother again and ascends out of the underworld back into the heavens. The things that we believe in, our faith, is not based on nonsense. There's real meat to the bones. There's real things to dig your teeth into. And it would be worthwhile for the heathen pagan community to stop trying to copy Christianity and start standing on its own 2 feet and saying, you know what? The stuff that makes up our belief system is great and powerful. And why do I say that we're copying Christianity? Slavery, the dogma. Slavery to the only thing that can be true is what is literally printed on the page. Instead of giving ourselves permission to be mystics, to be shamans, to be explorers of the profundities of life, and to seek more, and to ask the gods to teach us the truth no matter what the cost. To stop trying to reconstruct the things that are just lost to time and build actual, real relationships with the gods instead of going through the motions. I've known a lot of people, more than I would like, who treat the gods like they like the gods in the same way people like Harry Potter. It's a fad. It's not even a fad. It's like a cartoon, like being a fan of Game of Thrones. You know, it's edgy. It's cool. It's LARPing. The gods for me are real because I have taken large amounts of time to cultivate personal relationships with them. I've spent easily thousands of hours studying the Elder Mysteries. And I have had the good fortune of having good teachers. And if I, to quote Tesla, if I have seen farther than some, it's because I have stood on the shoulders of giants. And it is my hope that we can step out of the old Christian ways of doing things, which is just read the scripture and believe. You heard about the believers. My hope and my prayer is that we cannot be believers but knowers. That those who serve the gods, who are genuine and who could step out and say, I'm not a believer, I'm a knower. Why do I know? Because I have actually been there. I have experienced it personally. And really know the philosophy in here. The Book of Frigg. To have the Book of Frigg written on our hearts. That we can know wonder. Know the profundity of the universe. Know the things that are beyond ourselves because we have taken the time to actually think about what is being described in the myths. Not just a pretty story and funny shenanigans. What is actually being described when we read the stories of the Master Builder? What's being described when Loki ties his balls to a goat to make a giantess laugh. They're all good stories. They make good bedtime stories. They make good narratives. There's villains, there's heroes, there's magic weapons, there's what's not to love. But we have assumed for too long that they're stories to be believed, instead of actually asking ourselves, what if the ancient mind taught profound mental science, but their ways, instead of writing scientific papers the way we would today, which are dry and no one wants to ever read or learn, we tell stories so that our knowledge may never be forgotten. And that if you're wise enough to look into them, you're wise enough to see them, you're wise enough to ask good questions and ponder what is actually there, may be those people who are willing to actually do the work of thinking, may get to know the beautiful things that have been forgotten forever. Anyway, I guess that's my spiel. I really love the Norse pagan community. I love the people who are here. And I really want I really, how do I even put it? I guess I really want people to what am I trying to say? I want people to be able to know what beautiful things, what magnificent philosophy, what mysteries and profundities and enthusiasms and I really want people to know what they're sitting on. To come awake and not be asleep. And not fall into old traps. So that are people who have been asleep and who haven't known who didn't even know that this is their birthright. All of this, these mysteries. They don't even know that the gods have given them everything. The whole profundity of the universe. This is your birthright. This was given to you. freely. But people are too self-absorbed, their egos are too involved, and they're too anxious to be right, and they're too interested in making all the mistakes that the Christians make, which is the slave to the literal interpretation of what is actually being written down. You're missing your birthright. You're missing your birthright because you're not willing to look deeper and ask good questions. You could be free. You know that. Anyway, the Book of Frigg. It's truth, mystery, and unknowable, unexpressible knowledge. And it's a concept that is difficult to wrap your mind around. And it is difficult to really understand because it's not easy to understand, because it's not the kind of knowledge that we are used to thinking that we need. But I hope that you and your kin and your families will take the time to hear me when I say that there's more to Frigg than being a harlot. The wife of the All-Father who is never mentioned, like the poor wife in Mary Poppins who never even gets a name. Do you know the wife of the house in Mary Poppins? Do you know her name? No one does. She doesn't have a name. But it's hard to communicate that to people. And I'm almost at an hour. I have about 3 more minutes left. I hope that made some sense. And it's one of those things that are profoundly difficult to communicate because it's not something that you can really communicate is the problem. And that's what is so freaking frustrating about it. There's more here. This is the thesis statement. There's more here than meets the eye. There's more here than what we give credit for. Okay? Again, next week, next Wednesday, a video. My friend Alex, who is a fantastic astrologer. She is well on her way in the study of Seder. She's part of the same mystery school that I am. She'll be here to give you an introduction, and maybe if she likes it, she'll keep coming back. we'll see. She's fantastic. You'll love her, and um, I hope you stick around for that. Thanks for listening to me ramble, and praise be to Odin and the gods for helping us understand. And I'll see you all later. Bye bye.